Hola muchachos, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are live. I appreciate the company. Thank you for tuning in. I'm trying to do daily videos and I'm cherry picking subjects that I feel are interesting, that maybe could start a dialogue, that we could learn, that could maybe stop this polarization between age groups, between the sexes, between countries. I don't know, any kind of polarization. Today I want to talk about my hero, my granddad. It was from another time, another era. I am spending time reflecting myself, and sometimes my granddad comes to me as a spirit. He died in the mid-90s, bless his soul. My hero, my granddad. The first photo taken of my granddad is him barefooted in pants that look like it's made out of a potato sack with a rope as a belt, shirtless, next to the railroad tracks, with a house that's on the dirt made out of wood with grass around it. He had 12 siblings and parents that were, he would box very early in life as a boxer for money, and he would tell me that it would not be that good. He would get beat up, and he stopped that very quickly, getting in an affair with my grandma, who was upper class. Her family were landowners and farmers, and she was not supposed to get pregnant with this young man, but they did, and they stayed together, and she got outcast from her family, which was a burden for them. But my granddad worked very hard, and so did my grandma, very hard. In fact, incredible to think back, because work was not a chore for these people. This was a lifestyle. They got up 4 o'clock in the morning and went to bed 4 o'clock in the morning. Something like that. Incredible work ethic. And I remember spending the summers there working with my granddad. My granddad ended up having 2 houses he built himself and 3 boys that had lots of kids, and incredible network of friends, knew everybody, and was always involved in every project in the whole town pretty much. He worked for the railroad his whole life during the Second World War, and this is kind of why I want to talk about it, because I was watching a movie with my beautiful young wife. She suggested Unbroken, I think it's called. It's a movie about a fella from the Second World War. Well, a team of bombardiers, a plane flew out from America, crashed in the Pacific Ocean, and I think 2 people ended up surviving in their dinghy and got captured by the Japanese out on the Pacific Ocean after spending more than 40 days, I think, in this dinghy, losing friends on the way. But incredible torture, really, just torture, and very much reminded me of the gruesome things people do to each other. And you know, I'm on this journey, so I'm here to tell you about my hero, my granddad, who was very much alive in that era, just having their first child, right, during the Second World War. And much later, in the 80s, I would spend time with them as a young kid, far away from my parents. As I said, that whole family would end up getting split up. All the uncles would move around the world. Very polarized family, really. But I would be lucky enough to spend time with my grandparents, and I remember it as being totally different, right? And really loving it. My granddad, he worked for the railroads during the Second World War. Well, he got drafted in the army, right? And had a very short career because he didn't take orders well. I was very impressed with his story. Apparently it was raining and there was a heavy box, and he got picked out by his superior to carry this box in circles, and I guess he felt that he was getting picked out. Everybody were told that they could go rest, except for my granddad, who was told to keep running around with this box. So long story short, I think he broke his nose and his jaw, and my granddad went to jail. But I kind of, that story stuck with me a little bit, and again, long story short, I did not make it to the army either. My granddad, though, he helped sink boats in the Second World War. He helped supply goods for this stuff and helped the resistance, and was part of it himself, and even got captured by the Germans and had his nails pulled out. My grandma did not like telling stories about the Second World War. Neither did my granddad. And this is where because I'm just picking these subjects out of the blue, and everything is unscripted in these videos. Remember to hit the like button if you like it, gentlemen, and leave a comment too. But so I want to talk about the different generations as I see it, right? Because I think that my grandparents coming out as new parents after the Second World War, because they had 2 more kids right after the Second World War, and I think there was a huge generation right there, right? Everybody having kids. And I think they had one thing in common: they wanted to spoil their kids. They wanted to forget about the war, right? Like I said, when I asked them about this stuff, they kind of like, let's not talk about that, right? Let's eat your ice cream, right? And then I kind of feel like that, because that generation is my parents, right? My parents, and that is a huge generation of boomers. They control the world now, boys. And I think it's just my perspective, remember? But I think they were flooded with toys without warnings, right? And we ended up in I'm going to be all over the place, right? In my generation, I think, because looking back at my granddad, right, for him, the phone didn't change. His location of work didn't change. His vicinity, he lived at the same place, right? And the technology he used didn't change, and he didn't get divorced, right? So it was a whole different scene back then, right? And I think it's fun to think about the difference between these generations. What happened with these boomers? And I'm thinking now, because we are where we are now. Dang, right? And that movie yesterday reminded me of all the terrible things people do and how we're kind of shielded of it. And then we've been too busy. I think my generation, have just been too busy adapting, just constantly adapting to this polarized, changing world, which is exciting. It's super exciting, and it gives us a lot of freedom. We got a lot of freedom, compared to my grandparents, who were exiled from the family because she had a baby out of wedlock with a lower caste person, my granddad. He ran with the Olympic torch. He was the leader of lots of different sports federations, a great man with lots and lots of friends. He would take care of this public land, so he had access to dynamite and all kinds of heavy tools, and really knew the community. Me as a kid hanging out with him, he was a pensioner at that point, so was my grandma. So they were living life, I guess. He had a big workshop, a garage with the 2 entrances and back doors, and he had greenhouses and homemade basement. They had lots of Doberman dogs. But as a kid, we would build go-karts, right? I would race these go-karts. No concern for safety compared to the city folk, my parents, who are never home, right? With my granddad out blowing stuff up with dynamite, using chainsaws, and building go-karts, and just now remembering him, his work ethic, right? Just continuous work ethic. And if he didn't have work, somebody else did. And he didn't work for money. He had money. Like I said, he ended up building 2 giant houses and did very well for himself. But I don't think the way he looked at work was for money. He looked at his community, that if something needed to get done, he would be on it and try to communicate and make it happen, which is so incredible, right? Which is so incredible. But I think some information got lost in how we're behaving now. And yeah, I'm just reflecting and sharing with you guys between generations here. You guys got any heroes in your life? Anything you look back at? Because things are changing quick now. It's a whole different world, right? But so I'm at my space. I'm getting close to 50 here, and it's time for me to look back at my life and just reflect a little bit and make sure I manifest the correct things, right? So I'm sharing here so we can do that together and hopefully have a dialogue about these things. I find it interesting. I find it very interesting. But when my granddad comes to me in spirit, it puts me back to who I really am. I feel like I'm an adventurer, I'm an inventor, and I like awe and wonder, and that's really my granddad. So I just thought I mentioned him, bless his soul, and my grandma too, because it is all about chores. Chores, chores, chores. I've said it before, gentlemen. Chores, chores, chores. But then again, with all this technology that we got, we should use it to build a greater consciousness. And that's what I'm reminding you guys. Spend time on things that builds your confidence, create love and health for yourself. Do that. Don't overthink it. Do that, because that is moving forward. And then maybe we need to, how do we connect the generations? How do we get the information between generations, right? Because we are polarized. You see what I see it here too. There's babysitters. A lot of kids grow up with babysitters, right? Food for thought. Food for thought. I will be back with the video tomorrow. And if you guys got ideas, let it be known in the comments. It's a beautiful day. All right, great view on the balcony here. Hopefully you guys are staying fit and firm. Remember, there's nothing, well, health is wealth. What else are you going to do? If you're not doing home cooking, if you're not right now, spend just a few minutes on alignment, focus and balance, a bit of stretching, right? When was the last time you did a plank? Come on now, boys. Get a little wrist strength, grip strength. I'm done. I'm out. Bye-bye.